Your first lesson is solving rational equations. This was done on December 4th, I think. Yeah, December 4th. I'm pretty sure you were here for this one. I think you asked some questions. It looks like this. I think you were here for this one. I'm going to send you a picture of these notes right here just to make sure that you do have them. But I'm just going to explain two of these equations to make sure that they are explained better than the way that Hampton explained them. Please let me know if this is helpful or not. And please let me know if it confuses you even more than you are. Because I'm here to help you. I'm not here to confuse you. I'm really here to help. And I don't mind coming to you in person and explaining it that way, because that is totally okay with me. This is just the best way that we can do this right now. And if I need to stay after school with you one day, I will gladly do that. Or Monday, since we don't have school, we can both come up to the school and I can teach you in my mama's classroom. Any of that is okay. Just let me know. If this video helps, then just let me know, and I will be happy to help in any other way possible. There will be other videos after this one. This is just the first one that we're trying out. Okay, so after that little rant, your first step in solving a rational equation, you have to ask yourself, what is a common denominator for these expressions? When you find that, you must multiply what is on the bottom of your equation to the top of your equation. Step 3 will be combine your like terms and solve for your variable. Step 4, check for extraneous solutions. Now, we're going to use these in an equation to help them make more sense. So your first equation is x over x minus 1 minus 2 over x equals 1 over x minus 1. I color-coded the denominators to make it easier to understand, because I know that it would help me if they were color-coded as well. Your denominators are color-coded, your top ones are not. So, your first question is, what is a common denominator? Are any of these colors the same? Your two pink ones are the same. However, all three of these must be the same in order to solve this equation. So what you're going to need to do is multiply this denominator by your x. Multiply this x by your x minus 1. And this x minus 1 by x. Now let's do that to explain it better. I'm just writing the numerators right now so I can get the denominators to look presentable. So you're going to take your x minus 1, multiply that by your x. Now you're going to take your 2 over, you have your x. That x needs to be multiplied by your x minus 1. Now you're going to take your x minus 1, that was over here, and the same thing you're going to do to this one, you're going to multiply by x. Now, all your denominators are now x minus 1 times x, or x times x minus 1. It's the same thing. So now they are all the same. Your step 2 is multiply what is on the bottom to the top. So the rule with your fractions are whatever you do to the bottom, you must do to the top. So now you'll have your x, and you're going to have to multiply that by your x, your blue x, because you multiplied this denominator by x. You multiply x minus 1 by x, so you have to multiply your numerator by x. And that is over your denominator of x minus 1 times x minus 2, and you multiplied your x by x minus 1. So you must also multiply your numerator by x minus 1, your pink equation. That is also over, this is over x times x minus 1 equals 1 times your x, because you multiplied this denominator by x. So this would be 1 times x over, again, x minus 1 times x. And you can put parentheses over this x too to make them look the same. But it's just whatever your preference is. So now, what I like to do is that now that all of our denominators are the same, they cancel out because they don't really matter anymore, since we have our numerators are now what they need to be in order to solve this equation. So now you just have your numerators, and this makes it way easier to solve. Instead of having to deal with your fraction, you just have standard numbers and variables to solve for. So this is your equation that you now have since you canceled out your denominators. So now we must multiply. We must distribute what needs to be distributed. I'm going to switch to black now to make it easier to see. X times x is x squared minus negative 2 times x, because this minus is also considered a negative with this 2. Your negative 2 times your x is negative 2x. Your negative 2 times your negative 1 or minus 1 is plus 2, because a negative times a negative is a positive, equals 1 times x is x. Now we must move everything to one side to get the equation to equal 0. So we're going to subtract x from both sides. And this will leave you with x squared minus 2x plus 2. And now we have our minus x that we subtracted from this side equals 0. Now that you have that, you must combine like terms. This is step 3. So there's nothing to combine with your x squared, so that stays the same. Negative 2x minus x is negative 3x. Is there anything to combine with the 2? No, so that is just plus 2 equals 0. So now you have this equation here. Because you have an x squared, you are most likely can factor. With this one, you can factor. So we're going to ask ourselves, what is this is what we're doing. We're solving for our variable now. So we have to ask ourselves, what are our factors of 2? To give us 2, we can multiply 1 times 2. Let me know if you need an in-depth video on factoring. I'd be happy to do that. I'm going to try to explain this as best I can while still focusing on solving rational equations. So we have our 1 and our 2, so we're going to put these on this side. Now we have to determine if the signs are going to be plus, minus, or two opposite signs. We know that negative 1 minus 2 gives us negative 3, so they're both negative. And when we look at this and we multiply, a negative times a negative is again a positive. So you would get positive 2 when these two multiply, making this check out. Now, since we're solving for our variable, we have to set both of these equations equal to 0. X minus 1 equals 0, and x minus 2 equals 0. Now, we have to add 1 to this side, giving us x equals 1. And we have to add 2 to this side, giving us x equals 2. Now that we've solved for our variable, we have to check for extraneous solutions. An extraneous solution is something that is a solution, however it causes an error and cannot be technically used. So, we're going to substitute our 1 for our x. 1 over 1 minus 1 minus 2 over 1 equals 1 over 1 minus 1. Now that we've plugged this in, our one rule in math is our very prominent rule in math is we cannot divide by a 0. That causes an error in our equation and we cannot use it. So we can already see a problem here because 1 minus 1 is 0. And when we do that, it would give us 1 over 0, and we cannot divide by a 0. So the 0 cannot be in a denominator, making 1 an extraneous solution. 1 is extraneous. Now that we've found our extraneous solution, we must check that 2 is not an extraneous solution. You can always have 2 extraneous solutions. Just because 1 is extraneous does not mean that the other one is a real solution. However, in this case, when we plug our 2 in for our x, this equals 1, as well as this equals 1. So 1 equals 1 is true. So 2 is our real number solution. So your answer is x equals 2, and your extraneous is x equals 1. You always have to specify which one is extraneous in order to get the question right. So these are your answers, and you're done.